Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm glad you joined us. I guess this is, Kylie, correct me if I'm wrong, our seventh coronavirus meeting since this crisis has begun. Before I begin, I'd like to send out congratulations to our own Kate Baker for the birth of her brand new baby girl, Emery Rose. I don't know why she wasn't named Corova.
Rona. Rona.
But so anyway, that's great news. Mother and baby are in good shape, from what I understand. So today we'll be hearing, as we have been in the past, from Jody Roth, our lobbyist with the Virginia Retail Federation. She'll provide us with both a federal and a state update. Once again this week, we are joined by Misty Lineberger of Pixel Financial Group, and we have Tara Jones with us today from Fulton Bank. Thank you guys for joining. Both Misty and Tara can help us get through the PPP loan application process and give us any updates as it relates to that. We also have, of course, Kylie Ross-Seibert, our Vice President of Communications, and she's going to provide an update on any upcoming webinar topics and any other resources that Retail Alliance is providing to our members. Your questions can be submitted via Zoom throughout the briefing. And so with further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this, and I'll turn it over to Jody Roth. Jody?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for jumping on. Not a whole lot has changed since we last spoke last week. Kate and I informed you guys to hurry up and as soon as possible to get your applications in for that last round of stimulus money. We do have the task force met again, the business task force with Secretary Ball's office and his two deputies met on a lengthy call yesterday from about 3 to 6. We have our very own Jenny Crittenden who sits on that, representing small. And we also have Walmart, our board member, Brooke Mueller with VRF, who sits on that to represent large. And they are both doing a stellar job at looking out for all of us, large and small. There was a lot of attention drawn yesterday to the flexible paid sick leave and making sure that they make it very clear that it only it pertains to coronavirus only, and not small businesses having to come up with a new sick leave policy for their businesses. The two deputy secretaries reiterated that it was corona-related only. And there's, a few other suggestions that were made. And I don't know if Jenny is on here, maybe later wants to talk about those changes. She did indicate that we had a few wins and some things taken out as it pertains to PPE and what we have to provide, and not having to test our employees, which was in the original phase. It would be on them to test themselves if they feel that they are coming down with something, well, with the corona, I should say. The governor will be having a press conference this afternoon, and we probably will expect to hear what that phase one will look like. So that he can keep with his May 8th date, which is the end of next week, which I think if he is wise, he would definitely try to do, because there'll be quite an uprising, I believe, if he doesn't. So I think they're moving pretty fast with these task force and their suggestions. The one that I sit on, which consists of trade associations such as VRF and NFIB, a couple of chambers, and Home Builders Association, and so on. We are to gather again May 6th. But in the interim, I have provided the Secretary Ball and his deputies with the NRF brick and mortar and restaurant blueprint for reopening. They seemed pretty grateful for that and thought there was some good stuff in there. And I will know more after my call to share with you guys next Friday. But if you are able, stay tuned and listen to the press conference this afternoon. And if there is any pressing information coming out that pertains to you guys, as always, our communications team is ready to roll out at 3 o'clock after the press conference with any breaking news.
Jody, thank you. And remiss of me, we have our own Jenny Crittenton. She sits on the Retail Alliance board, and she also chairs our legislative committee with the Virginia Retail Federation. She is also on the governor's task force,
Yes.
and they're going through the processes and to figure out the guidelines for reopening. And so, Jenny, I'm going to put you on the spot here, if that's okay. And
that's fine.
Wanted to see if you had anything you wanted to add to the update.
Jody and I have been keeping in extremely close contact, as well as Kate, prior to bringing into the world little Emery Rose. And we have been working through what we had concerns over, and I was, pleased that some of the things we had pointed out, which Jody mentioned, about placing the burden on the employer to take the temperatures and a bit play doctor with employees, that's gone. So now it'll be incumbent upon the employee to kind of self-monitor themselves as far as symptoms of COVID, and then to, not come into work. So obviously they're encouraging people, if they have any COVID symptoms, not to report to work. Also related to that is basically the simplistic nature of what we expected was posting signage at the front entrances about COVID symptoms. Don't come in if you've got these symptoms. Posting signage to remind the public about physical distancing. They will be looking for, when you think in retail locations, a demarcation on the floors that show people 6-foot distancing in the cashier areas or any other congregational areas. So be thinking about that. Any of your employees that are front facing to the public will be required to wear some type of cloth face covering. They prefer the kind that are CDC cloth recommended according to the website, ones that can be washed. They would love to see them laundered daily, but they did back off that requirement a little, where they just said the words face covering. So I think they gave us some leniency there. One of the other things was non-essential retailers would be limiting occupancy to 50%. So think about what your fire code is. And then you're going to be able to have 50% of the people in the store, as long as you also are adhering to the 6-foot social distancing. So it can't exceed 50%. And if 6-foot distancing gets you below 50%, that's where you're most likely going to be. So that's kind of in a nutshell for just brick and mortar. They've broken these guidelines out into 6 industries. For us, probably through Retail Alliance, we're looking at the brick and mortar retail guidelines, as well as the restaurant guidelines. Potentially and the restaurant also includes food service. So anybody who's got a brewery, a winery, a food truck, it's basically all lumped in together. The other sectors, they did break it out. We have a campground sector, a fitness and exercise facility, and just makes personal care and personal grooming. So those folks who have been forced to be shut down, the salons, the barbershops, the massage therapist, anyone who's giving those kind of touch businesses, there's definitely a different set of guidelines for them as well. And then there's the overall guidelines related to just any business. If you're an office, they're going to look for 6-foot distancing between workstations. So that just gives you some similarities. It's a total right now of about 15 pages. So, but it's broken out into multiple industries, and it's been a robust group. And I think that basically that gives you just the general guidelines. I can say that yesterday we specifically asked about a timeline. Are we going to be able to stick to the May 8th date? Because for those of us on the task force, our phones have been blowing up and people wanting to know. So restaurants, are ordering product, planning on reopening, and salons are making appointments. And unfortunately, they said they can't even begin to tell us if that May 8th date is going to stick. So even we don't have a clue what to expect there. We did encourage them that if it's going to be extended, they need to let people know as soon as possible, just strictly for the planning purposes of it all. But I agree with Jody. If we don't stick to it, I think that there's going to be a lot of upset people. And I think it's really difficult situation they've been placed in. There was also the discussion of opening up from a statewide standpoint versus a regional standpoint. So opening up different regions or even counties in different areas. And that would be particularly related to the report of how many cases from the health districts. And there was a kind of a resounding theme along the call that would be really hard to do. The messaging would be super tough. And then they worried about the influx. If I'm in one county and I'm not open, but I cross county lines and suddenly I am open, those businesses would see a tremendous influx. And then how would they handle the 6-foot distancing, being able to have people wait in line to come in. And so it brought up a whole nother set of problems. But for me on the call, basically representing brick and mortar, I just said, we need to open. We don't want to open and then close again. And it's really important that the messaging is coming from the government to instill that consumer confidence that you can go out and do this. We have opened, we have provided guidelines, the businesses are on board. So let's get back, the economy. So we'll see. I'm waiting just like you guys are.
Jenny, when do you think is a reasonable time that we can expect to receive the guidelines as it impacts our brick and mortars and our restaurants, so that our communications team can get this out on our websites and communicate that to our membership?
They did say that before this hit the public, that because of our roles on the committee and the task force, they would send us what phase 1 and phase 2 would look like. I'll be honest and say that I have slight confusion over the guidelines that have been created, that I think we all thought this was phase 1. And I'm now getting an idea that maybe these guidelines are a combined phase 1, phase 2. So I'm not quite sure what phase 1 is going to look like versus phase 2. I think that requires some clarification. I actually plan on making a call today to ask just that question. So as far as when, they didn't say. They just said they will be expeditiously working on this and that they will put it in our hands right before it hits to the public.
Okay, so I can assure the folks on the call today, as well as our membership, that as soon as we receive the guidelines, we will post those guidelines on the Retail Alliance website, as well, Jody, the Virginia Retail Federation website as well.
Correct.
Okay, so yeah, I guess stay tuned. Joey, do we have any questions for either Jenny or Jody Roth?
Nothing in the chat right now, Ray.
Okay. Well, thank you both, Jody and Jenny. Thank you for
You're welcome.
passion and your diligence in this matter, and we'll pass this on. So now let's go ahead and welcome our next guest, Misty Lineberger with Pixel Financial, as well as Tara Jones with Fulton Bank. I'll turn it over first with Misty. Misty.
Good morning, everybody. So actually a lot has happened over the last week. Last Friday, with the new rollout of PPP Phase 2, Some additional guidance has been coming out in terms of how they're going to be looking at the forgivability of these loans. A couple of extra things outside of the expenses that you're spending them on. They're also going to be looking at what they call your full-time equivalent employee. So you really need to get with your consultants. I did put out a video about how to calculate it, but I really think you need to talk to your consultants, your CPAs, whoever, to help you figure that out. Yes, Lisa, I see you. You need to call me. So there are a few ways it can be fixed. If you're not where you need to be, it can be fixed. And there are a number of ways to do that, from increasing employee hours to hiring another employee to adjusting your operating hours. Like maybe right now you shouldn't be using the same operating hours that you normally use. Like you don't need to be open as much. So that's another way to bring that FTE up to where it needs to be. So super important, and you need to start doing it now, because you have time to fix it, but once June 30th happens, it's done. You're not going to be able to fix it. So get with somebody now to start working on that. You have 2 different time periods to choose from to compare it to if you're a non-seasonal employer. If you are a seasonal employer, you can only compare between February 15th of 2019 through June 30th of 2019. So super imperative. The other thing that came out as of yesterday, new guidance, notice number 2020-32. Any of the funds or any of the expenses on which you spend the PPP funds are not going to be tax deductible. So they're not going to let you have a forgivable loan in addition to also deducting those expenses on your tax return. Now, that doesn't mean they can't show up on your P&L as a legitimate expense, but you're going to need to work super closely with the people who are managing your books to make sure that they're tracking the PPP expenses completely separately. I know that we're going to be making those changes in our office today in terms of how we're working on that. And this one little thing also makes it imperative that you have those funds in a separate checking account, because that is going to be the easiest way to track what you're spending that money on. I know that there's been kind of some argument about whether or not they need to be in separate funds. Now I'm saying it's super important that you have those in separate funds. Also, this week, I received some alarming news. And Tara, I think you can probably speak to this. One of my clients called me and said that they had received information from a banker that their PPP loan was accepted and they were going to get funded. And now they needed to go cancel their EIDL application. And I was absolutely horrified. You can have both. Don't make those kinds of decisions without first talking to your CPA or managerial accountants. This person was totally wrong, and believe it or not, I've already called that bank and I'm already tracking that down. I'm a total mama bear when it comes to my clients. So just be careful of that kind of news. As far as I know, there's nothing that says you can't have both. It's about what makes sense. I know you can refinance the EIDL as a PPP, but I have actually not run into a situation with my clients where that actually makes sense, because the PPP restricts what you can spend that money on so much that they need the EIDL to cover some of their operating expenses that the PPP is not going to cover. So again, make sure that you are talking to your team of professionals to make sure you're making the right decision. Another alarming thing that came out this week was somebody I've been talking to was told by somebody within the VEC that all of this unemployment that their employees are currently collecting is going to count against them like it would under any other normal circumstance, and that their unemployment insurance is basically going to go through the roof. I have contacted my contacts within the VEC and been informed that they have received absolutely no guidance on this whatsoever. They don't really know how it's going to be handled. So it's still undetermined, and I'm not really a reason to panic at this point in time, but I just wanted to get that information out there as well. So, and I think that pretty much covers my updates for this week.
Thank you, Misty. And let's call on Tara Jones with Fulton Bank.
Ray, I just want to, if I could follow up real quick on this with Misty's, the unemployment insurance rate for employers. I've been encouraged by Secretary Ball and my conversations with him on that is his biggest issue that he is really working hard and with the feds on to make sure that that does not happen. So I would agree with what you're saying, that you're not you're not seeing where that's true. And let's hope and pray that that's the case. And sorry to interrupt, just wanted to add that because I know that's startling for some of you guys.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Misty. So Tara, are you there with us with Fulton?
Yes, I am. Good morning, everyone. I'm Tara Jones. I'm with Fulton Bank. I think Misty did a really great job with her update. I will say that, yes, from a banking standpoint, we are in the second round. We are encouraging individuals who are whether they're on the fence about applying for the PPP, if that's going to be the right loan for you, that's going to be very important that you go ahead and move forward and move quickly. I'm getting feedback that funds could be running out soon. So it's going to be very important that people go ahead and put that application in. And of course, the key to that application is that it's been reviewed and the customer has been able to receive an E-Tran number, an SBA number, because that does help to set those funds aside and for them to be able to work through signing loan paperwork and disbursements. So if you have any of your members who are still not sure, it would be very important for them to get with their CPA and make that decision much sooner than later. Like Misty mentioned, and of course, like the SBA website has encouraged customers, and we're definitely encouraging customers too as well. It's very important that they do set aside a separate account from their operating account to disperse those PPP funds to that account. So it makes it easier for them to track what they're using those funds on. And then when the SBA does send down guidance of what it looks like from a forgiveness standpoint, then it's going to make it easier for them to be able to come up with the proper documents. We are getting a lot of phone calls from customers asking how's that forgiveness going to work. And that it is going to be placed in our hands from a financial institution. We really have not been given any kind of guidance as of this point of what that forgiveness is going to look like. The only thing that we can tell customers is that you have 8 weeks from disbursement of the loan to use those funds up to June 30th. So if there's any changes that are going to be made to that, we'll definitely be able to get that information out as we receive it from our own SBA team. Again, like I said, we're just diligently working through. I do know that the process, I can't speak for all financial institutions, but for Fulton Bank has become much smoother. We've been able to put processes in place to kind of move applications move them along, excuse me. I know the first round, we had customers it was taking, over a week to almost 2 weeks for disbursement because we were working through our own processes. But I'm happy to say that I have had individuals who have applied with the PPP with us, and we've been able to work through the process and been able to get funds to them within 3 to 4 days or maybe less. So we are working diligently to get our customers through. I do get a lot of phone calls of individuals wanting to apply for the PPP with us. I will say in the second round, Fulton Bank is willing to process a PPP loan application if you open up a business account with us. So if you were not a current customer, that was what would it take in order to be able to process it. We would have to have the actual entity on file with us, and then the person can apply, and they can do it all in the same day. We are working as an organization on a drive-through and appointment-based banking. So individuals who do want to reach out, they can do so by sending me an email. We have done a lot of things via email, over the phone. I have walked paperwork out to people's cars, to kind of practice the social distancing. But we are definitely here for our customers and doing the best we can to work through this process as quickly as we can in order to ensure that as most individuals as possible can be able to take advantage of the program. I do get a lot of questions of people asking, like Misty mentioned, if I get approved for the PPP, should I not or move forward on the EDL, the EIDL? We're not telling customers that because both loans can be used for different purposes, and the PPP is very different from the EIDL loan. So that decision will have to be made with the business owner. and with their CPA on whether or not if they are able to get those loans, do they need those loans, and do those loans fit the purposes and the needs that they have within their business. So, I mean, unless anyone has any questions for me, that's, all I have really to add today.
Tara, I just want to thank you so much. I know that all of our bankers are just slammed right now. For you to be able to take the time to join us this morning is huge. So I really do appreciate that. We also have, of course, in our membership, several different banks. And I would ask if there's any other bankers online, if they have any processes or anything they want to share with the loan process experience on the PPP. Tara, we'll have one question. How do we know when the money is going to be running out again?
So the information that I receive would be from my own SBA lending team. So it's hard to say. It's not something that's necessarily immediately released to the public. We only know from a professional standpoint when our company comes down and tells us that we're no longer accepting any PPPs. I just received information myself just from someone in our team that feels that we're coming close and has encouraged us to encourage our customers, to quickly move forward. We can't make any promises at this point just because everything is so up in the air, and all financial institutions are competing to submit applications for the E-Trend number. I think many of y'all may have saw information that went out where they were limiting some of the larger banks, medium-sized or larger banks like ourselves, from being able to submit E-Trend numbers after a certain hour of the day. They were utilizing different times of the day to allow the smaller financial institutions an opportunity to be able to compete and get in there and get that funding for their customer base. So again, because it's such a moving target, we just continually to try to press on and push on and just, let our customers know, to move forward, move quickly if that's something that they want to do. And definitely it's something that they need because we would not want them to have to miss out. And of course, we don't know after the second run whether or not we would have another opportunity at it again.
Lisa Bay had a question regarding EIDL. Are there any concerns with the funding for EIDL running out?
I wouldn't be able to answer that because I'm not for sure. Because I don't work directly with EIDL. Maybe Misty might be able to answer that.
Yeah, the answer is the EIDLs. I mean, the last time the PPP ran out, I told everybody, okay, the PPP's out. I sent out a video, and like an hour after the video, the EIDL ran out. So I don't think it's a matter of if it's going to run out. And I'm not sure they're going to be able to add any more money to it. I mean, this is only going to be able to go on for so long. That being said, you guys, there are other small business loans, just regular small business loans that might be an option for you if this stuff runs out and you have if you have a financial history. So just something else to keep in mind. It was one of the things I talked about during the cash flow management thing that I did yesterday. So hopefully that'll be coming out soon. But there are other options when the EIDL and the PPP run out. So be working with your bankers and your CPAs with that.
And just
Again,
to add, Misty does make sorry about that, Ray. Just to add, Misty is correct. There are banks out there that are offering other avenues for cash flow for business customers. So definitely give your banker a call. Just for example, for Fulton Bank, we are doing that for many of our business customers. We have actually business customers who have applied for business lines of credit, on top of, making the decision to move forward with the PPP as well. Not many banks are doing unsecured lending. I know that we are personally. We are offering our small business customers business unsecured lines of credit right now up to $25,000 and with stated income. based on your Dun & Bradstreet and your FICO score. So reach out to your bankers. If that bank does not have a program, I'm more than happy to speak to you about the program that we have. If that is something that may help, you as an individual or the business, to get through this crisis.
Thank you, Tara. Misty, I know that we've asked you to review this in the past, but can you hit on the payroll credits that potentially
Sure.
could be applied for?
Sure. So there's a couple of payroll credits. The super easy one is for paid leave to employees for directly related to COVID-19 reasons. So they either have it, they're caring for somebody who has it, they're presumed to have it and have been told by a professional they need to quarantine themselves. They have children or dependents for which they're the primary caregivers who no longer have a place to go as a result of COVID-19, and now they have to stay home with them. So there's like 6 different reasons, and I do have a video on that one too in terms of this. Now, what's going to happen here is that employers are going to get a 100% reimbursement for any leave they pay their employees related to those 6 reasons. And this is in addition, so this is outside, this is FMLA provisions for this. This is not part of their current sick leave. This is in addition to their sick leave. So they want people to keep their current sick leave programs, vacation programs in place, paid time off programs, and do this in addition to. And that 100% reimbursement is going to come in the form of a tax credit. So be working with your payroll companies to make sure that you're tracking that stuff properly. I know the payroll companies I work with, which are Time and Pay and Payday, they've got forms out, they've got codes ready for you. These credits also, in terms of tracking, didn't start until April 1st, which seems really late to me, but COVID leave prior to that is not qualifying for it. So it was starting on April 1st. So just keep that in mind. So that's the COVID-19 paid leave in terms of the FMLA provisions for companies under 500. The other credit is actually a little bit more difficult. It doesn't matter what size company you are, but this is a credit that you can get for up to $10,000 that you're going to be able to apply against your employer taxes. So what's happening is, for example, let's say over the period of time you paid $10,000 in payroll. You will get a $5,000 credit because the credit is 50% of your payroll up to $10,000. Then when it's time to file your 941, what will happen is you will take that $5,000 and apply it towards whatever the employer portion of those taxes are and simply not pay them. So if you have $2,000 of employer payroll taxes that you have to pay, it's just Social Security and Medicare, right? You'll have $3,000 of that left over, and that $3,000 you can file what's called a Form 7200 to request a refund for the rest, what you haven't used. Now, again, I think I've mentioned in the past, we still haven't been guided on how we're going to be communicating to the IRS that you're just not paying your bill versus using a credit. And I think they're going to modify the 941 with a little checkbox or something to let them know. The other thing about this credit is, in order to qualify for it, your gross income will have had to have fallen 50% or more from the same time last year in order to qualify for it. So if you've lost 30% of your income, still not going to qualify for it. So it's actually a pretty tough credit to get. And then once you are up to 80% of your gross income from the previous year, you lose the credit altogether. So it's actually relatively complicated, more and more complicated than I think it needs to be. But those would be the 2 primary payroll tax credits that we're looking at this point in time.
Thank you, Misty. That's very important information. We do have a question, and this could be really to Misty or Tara. Can you please clarify the 8 weeks up to June 30th for the deadline for using the PPP? Is it one or the other or both?
Well, It's my understanding that you have up until June 30th to apply for the PPP, but let's face it, those funds are not going to be available up to that point. And you have 8 weeks from the time you are funded to use those funds towards the appropriate expenses. Is that what you understand, Tara?
Yes, that's how I do understand it. And also to add, in speaking with Joey, if I pronounce his last name, I'm going to pronounce it incorrectly, so I do apologize, who works in the SBA office, he does state that as of right now, it's up to June 30th. So we do have a lot of customers who are very concerned about being funded possibly a little bit later in May, and that 8 weeks could possibly take them outside of the June 30th date. Again, we haven't received clarification, and we're just encouraging our customers to stick to the up to June 30th date for now. So there is a chance at that point that if it goes past the June 3rd, or if the person uses the money past the June 30th, there could be an issue with forgiveness. But until we get clarification from the SBA, it's hard for us to make that determination. So, I'm just telling customers to just use the time, the 8 weeks up to June 30th, and then at that point, wait for information to be given out. And if at some point you have money left over, you have money left over, but you still have that left over in a separate account so that you can be able to make decisions on how you want to handle it based on the information that's given.
And there are a couple of different options on how you handle that too. I mean, it is paid off at over 2 years at 1%, but the other option is you could just pay that money back too. So.
Right, exactly. Joey, do we have any other questions for either Misty or Tara?
It does not look like it, Ray.
Okay. Misty, thank you so much for being a part of us. Tara, and thank you. This is very important information. I know you guys are slammed with the coronavirus, but we really do appreciate your partnership as well as being engaged and helping our members get through this process. So with that, I'm going to call on Kylie Seibert, our Vice President of Communications, to give us an update on upcoming events, webinars, things of that nature. Kylie?
Sorry, I just realized I was on mute. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Next week, we've got a great webinar coming up, a special time of 11 a.m. next Thursday, May 30. And it's held by one of our premier members, Jamono Advertising Company. Lindsay and her team will share 5 ways you can pivot your marketing during this crisis. And I've just put on the screen, if you can't see it, it's talking about innovation, why constantly posting is important for retailers right now. As everyone knows, not everyone, sees things in their feeds all the time. Giveaways, what you can do there. Going live to stay connected with customers, and collaboration with other small businesses. So I think some key points there that you can learn something from. We're also going to be organizing other webinars in the coming weeks as well. But I do want to mention, if you can see this now, we're in our 5th week of holding retail relief webinars. And we hope that provided some resource and assistance to you and your businesses. So here's a list of some of the ones that we've held during this time. They are all recorded on our Retail Alliance YouTube channel. So just go to youtube.com/Retail Alliance or search for Retail Alliance, and you will see all of those retail relief webinars there, along with our briefings each Friday as well. If you needed to get a rundown from Misty and our other guests as well, you can find it all there. So some of those have been great. Had some guests on, we've had some members on, and we're going to continue in the coming weeks, but we're going to change the focus a little bit. And we're talking more about how to reopen your business. So along with the guidelines that obviously we're going to share as soon as we get them from the state to our members and through the VRF, we will also be doing some extra webinars on things that related to, how to open your business, because it's not going to be just open the doors. There's going to have to be a process that we get through. So wanted to point that out. We also have our portal on our website that has legislative updates. It's got our webinars are in there, any other resources or financial help that we have been able to source. So please refer to that at any time and call any one of our Retail Alliance staff members through email, communications@retailalliance.com. With any questions. We are also in touch with the NRF, which is the National Retail Federation, and they have launched Operation Open Doors program with a new online solution center. And as members of the NRF, you are all members of the NRF too, which is great. So we'll be able to provide operational guidelines and considerations along with the state, and we will work out how it blends together to work for our members in the retail and restaurant and small business industry. So in the NRF operation, they have 4 functional areas, which is health and safety, people, personnel, logistics and supply chain, and litigation and liability. So it's structured a little differently, but we look forward to seeing the state's version as well. So yes, thank you, Jenny, for representing small business on the task force for the governor. So what else did I want to talk about? Just our Facebook page, just keep posted. We do emails at least once or twice a week through the constant contact. So please make sure you check your spam and maybe whitelist us if you can. And you should also, from our member directors, get a personal email too, just in case, and that's through our Outlook system. So make sure you keep in touch through that way. That's through Facebook, our Retail Alliance page, plus our member group page. We'll post any updates there as well. So one last thing is we've had some journalists reach out to us, and they're looking for stories right now on small businesses. So if you have a story to tell, if you have a way that you've changed your business or adapted, or something that may be of interest to them, please reach out to me. My email is ksybert. I'll put it in the chat box at retailalliance.com, and we will pass on a lot of those stories to the journalists, and you may get some media coverage, which hopefully can help your business in the long run. So I think that is it for me. Ray.
Thank you, Kylie. And thank you again to Misty, Tara, and Jody. I really appreciate this. Is so important to keep our members in the loop. So I think what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be really preparing to reopen. And Jenny will keep us in the loop and informed. Again, thank you, Jenny, for everything you do, your service to Retail Alliance, the Virginia Retail Federation, as well as representing small retailers on the governor's task force.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So with that, we will adjourn this briefing, and we will get back together next Friday, the day before, 2 days before Mother's Day, I would imagine. So be safe, hug your families, and good luck, and we'll talk to you later.